Alright, so for a while now I've had a wheel speed sensor issue. I think the one on the driver's side front is broken. And so today I will show you guys how to replace your wheel speed sensor. The ones on the front are pretty much exactly the same, just different locations where they plug in. Today's video will be specifically the driver's side front. I got this placement from Crown Automotive. They sell on Quadratech and Extreme Terrain and a few other sites. But pretty much you just have your sensor here, your plug that plugs into the harness right here, and then the actual sensor part that goes near the wheel bearing. So today should be really simple, really easy, nothing too tricky. It's a plug and play system. So we're gonna go ahead and loosen up the lug nuts, take off the wheel, take off the brakes, and that all starts with jacking up the Jeep. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So you're going to start off by taking off these 13mm bolts on the actual caliper piston assembly. And once you get it kind of cracked loose, then you can just do it with your hands. Now you can take these bolts out. And I'm just going to set this here on the tie rod right here, and it'll just keep all these hydraulic lines not under stress. Next are the two bolts that hold in the caliper bracket, and they're 13/16. Again, once you crack these loose, they're pretty easy to go the rest of the way. Right here, there's a little bracket for your speed sensor, so you're just gonna need to move that out the way. I just like to bend it up. The metal's pretty malleable, so it's not a big problem. Take out these bolts. And now's a good time to check your brakes. And these have a pretty good amount of life left in them. So we're just gonna set this to the side. So what I do is throw it into four-wheel drive since I already took off the brakes. And that will lock the hub, so I can take off the wheel spacers. Okay, next you're going to need to take off these little rotor, I call them the rotor holder, and they're just little discs that hold in the rotor so they don't kind of flop around like this. And you can just do it by spinning them out like this. They have little tabs on them where you can get a screwdriver and kind of chip at it, kind of like that, and I'll get it to spin. And once you get those out, you can take off the rotor. Next, you want to go ahead and take off this screw. It's a size 5 Allen key, and you just want to take it off. And you want to be careful not to strip it, so make sure you use the correct size Allen, because if you get this stuck, then you have to drill it out, and it's a whole pain in the butt. So you first want to begin by taking this off. See if it'll give us any trouble. Yeah, it should come really loose. Once you crack it loose, it should be just hand tight. And there you go. Take this off. And the kit I bought comes with a new one of these, but if it doesn't, go ahead and just hold on to this. Even if it does come with it, I'll just keep this. It's always good to have extra bolts, so just throw this in your extra bolt drawer. So next you want to go ahead and get you a pair of vice locks. These can get pretty stuck in here, and if they're not, and yours is loose and you can just pull it out with your fingers, then great. But usually you can just clamp onto here with your vice locks and just start to pull at it. Get it out, you can usually kind of, once you get it loose, you can just manipulate this dust cover. I just like to bend mine. I don't know if you guys are comfortable with bending your dust shield, but to me it doesn't really matter. And once you finagle it enough, it will come out. There you go. There you go. Next, you want to begin by disconnecting the speed sensor from the brackets. And we already did the one up here, and you just kind of, they're just rubber fittings, so you just kind of want to pull it off. And then you can snap it out of these two parts right here. Pull it up, out, and kind of get it around. Now we have to open up the hood to disconnect it. Looking into the engine bay, if I can get it to focus, it's right under the steering shaft right there, and it's up against the little plastic wall over there. It's actually in a pretty difficult position. From an alternative angle, it's mounted right on the back of this shock tower mount, and so you see the wire here, but it's kind of difficult to pull up. You got to pull on this fender liner right here, and you got to reach around and kind of know what you're doing. So if I were suggesting anything to you, it'd be climb inside the engine bay, see how it connects, and then maybe you can come out here or just do it from the engine bay. You can usually get to that harness plug if you pull up the fender liner and stick your hand in, but I think it's really easy if I just sit in the engine bay and disconnect it like that. It has one of those red tabs like any other connection, like if you're disconnecting the doors, it has a little red safety tab, and then you want to push down and pull it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. I can't find a really good angle to show you guys me disconnecting it, but once it's out, I'll show you where it is and all that stuff like that. Now you want to go ahead and set your old sensor next to your new sensor and make sure they're pretty much relatively the same length. If they're too short, then it won't reach around to your hub. And so you want to make sure these are long enough. And this is the new one, this is the old one, this one that's going to come out. So it's really easy, just plug this back into the harness and then put this back into the wheel hub, and it's plug and play. Connect all these little rubber grommets back up, and so let's go ahead and plug this back in and route the wire. I have it wired or routed, so you want to make sure that doesn't get tangled up in any of these ABS lines or the exhaust or anything. Make sure it's routed exactly how you took it out. Wrap it behind this strut, and then just start popping it into place. And just keep routing it up. And once it goes into here, let's wrap it down into the bracket, and then bring it around and get ready to put it through the dust shield. Now this is the most tricky part, in my opinion, is getting it through this hole in the dust shield. Again, you might need to bend your dust shield a little bit, route the wire through, and now before you put it in, I put a little bit of grease on this O-ring right here, and that just makes sure that you have no problems with the O-ring or the seating process. And it also makes it a little bit easier to get out if you have to take it out later. And just put a really thin film. If you put too much, then that's a bad thing. Just put a good little, perfect. There you go. So I just tapped it in with an extension right there. Bend this dust shield back and place it into the last piece of the bracket as far as the wire goes. Now you want to go ahead and replace this screw to hold in the sensor. I like to put a little bit of medium strength blue thread locker just to make sure this doesn't back out. And then you want to just tighten up to snug. So once you get it tight that way, just give it a quarter turn. There you go. That's pretty tight. That's not going anywhere. And now it's time to start reassembly. So once you replace the sensor, you want to restart the computer in your Jeep. And you can do that by just disconnecting the negative terminal in your battery. For me, it's a quick disconnect. I have a battery isolator on here. So I'll just leave this disconnected for a few minutes, plug it back in, and then start off the Jeep. And then you should be done. Alright guys, that'll be the end of today's video. Hope you guys learned something, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys liked it, give it a thumbs up. Comment below any other tips to any other Jeepers doing this repair or any questions you have for me. I usually respond to every single comment. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.